welcome everyone to our March webinar. Happy St. Joseph's Day. Today, our speaker is Sister Marilyn Morgan. She is a longtime member of ACLS. We figured out that she did the program at the ILC almost 30 years ago. So she's had quite a bit of experience as a liturgical consultant. And today's talk, it's about a project that has taken a long time to do. Most projects, I would assume, get done in a year or two or three, but this one has gone on, what, 13 years? Okay, so we welcome Sister Marilyn.
Thank you. Is it time to share the screen?
Sure.
Oh, cool. Wait a minute. Get there. Okay. Well, this project, as Pam said, began a very long time ago. And it really began when someone came to a talk that I gave at the Archdiocese on building and renovating. And this man went home to this parish and talked to the then pastor. And they decided to invite me to meet with them to talk about what they could do to their church. Their church was built in, 1968, and it was built as a multi-use church. It originally, well, it started in a garage, as a lot of parishes do, and it was a multi-ethnic community in the beginning, and then as time has passed, it's located in Daly City, which is about 15 minutes from San Francisco, and Daly City is predominantly a Filipino community now. So the church is predominantly, but not totally, Filipino. And when they came to me, they weren't sure what they wanted to do with this space, because, you know, they were so used to taking the chairs apart for dinners, and they had the youth groups in there, and they really did do rollerblading in the church. And one woman told me that it just made her heart happy when the kids would roll by the Blessed Sacrament. And she didn't know that I was dying when she said that. But anyway, so that was constantly being taken apart. And so if you wanted a meeting, there was just no problem. You just move the chairs around. And that was their attitude on the church. And they had a hard time talking about what they wanted to do with this space, because they were so used to it not being sacred in the sense that we think of a sacred space. So when we talked, after a long time, they finally eked out that they wanted it to be beautiful, and they wanted it to be a worship space, but they didn't really understand what exactly that would mean for them. And they also recognized that it was a challenge to balance the different uses that they would have. So let's see if we can move on. Okay, so this is the actually the design that I'm trying to think which architect, well, sort of the first architect did, but I want to show you this because I want to explain this space. Oh, that's not what I want to do here. Okay, so if I move this. All right, originally this is the main street, and this was the entryway to the church. And but the people, this is at the parking lot, and we all know about parking lots. And so this is really the door that the people use to come in. So these are windows. The blue are windows, and the red are all windows for the church. And the okay, so this is where originally where the sanctuary was. And I will show you this window. And behind it is this small parking lot that the people in the offices would use. Okay, this is a long corridor off the nave, and they had a small chapel here, and the Blessed Sacrament is reserved here. And over here was a reconciliation chapel. These are all the church offices. This is a meeting space, and this is having problems here. This is also a meeting space, so just ignore the fact that there are chairs there. So what we wanted to do was to move the sanctuary between these two windows. Anything else I need to show you? Okay, this is a skylight in a tower. Okay, so the next thing, this is the main entry doors to the church. And actually, I hadn't seen them because no one ever uses them, and they are pretty much blocked off. This is the church entry from the parking lot. Now, this little tidbit is that this is a ramp for the people, and it wasn't built up to code, so they had to fix that. And this is also the church. The offices are over to the side. Okay, this is the entry that you walk into in the narthex. And these are all their statues. And one of the main things I had to learn in doing this project was the Filipino culture and who makes the decisions and how you get to the decisions that you want to make. So I suggested that we create some niches in the nave for these statues. And I learned right away that that was never going to happen, because what they do is they move those statues around. And if it's a day to honor Mary, then they take that statue out and they put her on a pedestal because they want to be up close to that statue. So then the next suggestion was that we could change this area and make some nice pedestals, or figure out a way to make this a nice entryway. So it opens to the nave. So wait a minute. There's a crow eating all my plants. Okay. So this is the inside of the interior of the church. And if I can do this without moving this slide. These are one of the side windows that we wanted to put stained glass in. This is the side to the parking lot. This is the main entryway to the church that is not used. This is their back storage area, basically, and they have a lot of storage. The church has always had chairs. It's never had pews or anything. This became one of our focal points. This is the back parking lot, and the sanctuary was behind this lot, and so they didn't want to see the parking lot, so that they covered this whole thing with this lattice work, and then they decided to cover the lattice work on the inside with ivy. And that wasn't enough. So then someone donated, and I'll show you this. Someone donated water fountains, and they put the water fountains here. So besides the fact that what you're looking at is a mess, when the priest would elevate the host, your eye goes directly to the water fountains, and it is very distracting. So that we wanted to address, that was their first thing that we had to address, which is why we decided to move the whole sanctuary out of that space. The altar was built by a parishioner, and this church is called St. Andrew's, And so a parishioner built the altar in the shape of the bow of a ship. And it's huge. And this was built by somebody else, and that's the ambo. And these are Filipino decorations that they have. And the first pastor was in the service, so flags were very important to him. And this was up the altar, the sanctuary is up 4 steps, so it was high. Okay, this is the day chapel. And let me see if I can move this space. All right, over here is the tabernacle. And I couldn't find it when I went in there because it looks like a poor box, you know, just a little slat. And it has a devotional picture above it. So it's really not highlighted in any manner. The chapel itself is very nice. It's all wood. And they use it for small funerals or weddings and things like that. Now, this is also in the chapel, and they have the station, Santo Nino, and other devotional pictures, but this is my favorite. This is the baptismal font that's shoved in the corner, and it is not used. So they do not have a baptismal font, but that's another part of the story. So the first thing that we wanted to do under the first pastor was to create windows. So I showed them all different kinds of examples of stained glass, and very surprisingly to me, they chose Guy Kemper, who is obviously a contemporary artist. And I thought that they would go for something very traditional, but that's not what they wanted. So they chose this, and Guy was going to do 4 windows, and they were going to reflect the seasons of the year. So each drawing was going to have these squares in it, but they would all be different. With the seasons, they would change colors. So in the discussion, it was very interesting. People started picking their square, and they wanted to know where they were going to be in the different seasons. And so it was interesting as they took some ownership over this. However, the architect retired at that point, and then the pastor got moved. The pastor had been Filipino, and a new architect was hired. So some plans got changed. So under the previous archbishop that we had guidelines for building and renovation in place. And we had a committee, a worship commission, and I was on it. And we worked with the Office of Worship, and we all knew everything that was expected and the order that it was going to happen. So the new pastor came in, and he was not Filipino, and he didn't want to do the project. He felt he had inherited it. It wasn't his. And then he thought we didn't really stop working under this, but after 2 years, he decided it was his project, and he basically wanted it done yesterday, which was kind of interesting. He didn't understand the timelines that, you know, it takes to do these things. So then we got a new archbishop, and the archbishop basically ignored all the guidelines that had been put in place for building and renovating. And this archbishop has all the approvals go to the archbishop through the secretary, who presents it to the archbishop and then reports back. And they don't basically involve the Office of Worship. So the secretary didn't, or at that point, didn't know anything about church renovation or the churches. So you would explain it to this man to the best of your ability, and then he would explain it to the archbishop, and then you would get your answer. But this is not the best way to do a project. So the secretary, at that point, there was another secretary came afterwards, came in, and he said, on this window, you will have Jesus in preaching, and on this window, you will have St. Andrew in a boat. And so you have a contemporary artist that is going to do these windows. So that was a very big challenge for Guy. And we really didn't have any say in that. That was what we were supposed to do. So this is one window to the left, and this is the window to the right. So the people in the Filipino culture follow this, that, you know, the pastor makes the decisions, and whatever the pastor wants, they will do. And if the archbishop tells you to do something, then you will do it. And they really, as I have learned, then when those people aren't present, they'll tell you what they really think. But Father Ricky Manalo and I worked together to learn about how to work with finding out how I could find out what the people really thought. And one of the key things was to say, well, Father needs to know what you think in order to make the decision. And so I would do that a lot of times, and it works. And that's how we found out what they really thought. And because the second pastor and I had worked together on another project, they decided that they could really trust me because I had the approval of the pastor. So that made a lot of difference in their decisions. So the approval process here. The furniture the furniture approval was dependent on the design of the sanctuary lamp. So the furniture approval was held up for a year and a half because the archbishop could not decide if he liked the sanctuary lamp. It wasn't ornate enough. And under this archbishop, the most important thing in the church is the tabernacle. It's more important than the altar. It's more important than anything. So he wanted, I mean, if he could have had neon lights on the tabernacle, he would, but it just, so in the end, he did not make a decision. He said, well, we'll just decide when it gets closer. So I took that information to the committee and we made a decision and we picked the one that we wanted. And he probably won't remember. So then there was a discussion with the archbishop on the accessibility to the sanctuary. And at that point, pastor number 2 could barely walk. And the archbishop wanted us to to elevate the altar on a separate platform, and also to make the tabernacle on a platform to show its importance. And I told the archbishop that the pastor could barely walk on the level ground, let alone walk up some steps to get to the sanctuary. So that's when I fought long and hard, and I won. But that was an interesting discussion. So as I said, accentuating the placement and the visibility of the tabernacle is the #1 thing. And when you see the back reredos wall, you will understand that, you know, they wanted me to paint part of it behind the tabernacle to accentuate the tabernacle. And I told them that that wouldn't look very good. I was kind of resistant on all the things that they have offered, but there is more to this story that you will see in the end. And the other thing is the archbishop and I were standing in the church, and I told him different places for the reliquary, and I told him that we were going to put it on the floor under the altar. And he just asked one question, if we could put it in the altar. And I said, no, it doesn't work with this design. And he really didn't balk at that. So the reliquary is in the floor. So pastor number 2 dies. And so the one thing that the pastor number 2 loved was the corpus. So for his funeral, they put the corpus on the wall, even though the things weren't finished, just because they wanted to honor him. And it was really a nice touch. Pastor number 3 comes aboard, and he is Filipino from the Philippines. And he is the pastor, and he makes the decisions. That is what he told us. So that became interesting. This is the tabernacle, and it is made of wood, and it has burl on it. And what you see, it looks like see-through, is really gold-plated brass. So it's really hard to take a picture of that, but that's how it is. And well, you'll see this. Okay, so this is the credence table, and you see the altar, and you can see the white stone. Let me see if I can show you. This is the reliquary underneath it. The shape was done to mimic the shape of the predella, which is round, and also the burl. One interesting story is the bishop's secretary and the person from the office of worship told me that they would never accept, the archbishop would never accept the shape of an altar, but he did. So this is what the people chose. When this has been a balance act with this new archbishop. When he saw this new furniture, he decided to order another shelf on this. So he's trying to make this space his own, which is kind of a challenge, because he does not believe in working with a committee, that he just does it on his own. So these are the presider's chair and the deacon chair. And this is interesting because, again, this is what this moves. Some of their things that they have are on wheels. And, you know, like our Mother of Perpetual Help is wheeled out to put wherever they want it to put. So it's very important to them to have things where they want them for that particular day, for that celebration. This is the corpus that was made by Umaramago, by Abel. And it has, this is gold-plated, not gold-plated, it's gold on it. So that is something that the Archbishop likes because it's traditional. The people love it. They were going to have something very small, and they like it. The furniture is not all done. You know, I keep saying that this project is not finished. Well, the sanctuary lamp is not yet done. There's another this candle over on the left is really the Paschal candle stand. They're making a third altar candle, and there is a what do you call it? Cantor stand that will be over to the right-hand side. So what the placement of, this is important to say, the placement of the tabernacle in our design, in our minds, and we argued and discussed with the Archbishop, is over here on this wall. And that the sanctuary lamp is to hang from the ceiling. Now it is interesting, I'll tell you this story of the Bible where God was going to destroy the people, and the prophet was arguing, you know, if you have 50 people, you know, will you destroy it? And, you know, God said, no. If you have 40, will you destroy it? No. Okay, so listen to this. So the Archbishop and I are standing in this space before it's done. And he said, I want the tabernacle to be in the center. And I said, well, could it be a little bit to the left? Yeah, that's okay. I said, well, could it be a little farther out to the left, more than that? Yeah, that's okay. Well, could it be over here? So I just kept trying to get it over here, and finally goes, yes, just as long as it's in the sanctuary. Okay, so that was between him and I. See, when you get with this man, you can talk to him by himself, but it's when you go through all these intermediaries that things get changed. So you will keep this story in mind when you see the next story picture. Okay, not the next one, but later on. Okay, so this is our accessibility ramp. And I told you that our Archbishop is a micromanager, so he had to approve of the color of the railing. The committee chose, out of 3, the committee chose 1. We sent those 3 to the Archbishop, who approved our choices. He had to approve the color of this wall. And well, he had to approve absolutely everything. But those are interesting things. The architect and I and the committee talked about the color of this wall. And one of the things that was important to us was that, let me go back. The lindenwood is very, it's white almost, and it's very light color. And so we wanted to make sure that the back reredos wall was darker than the corpus. So in this church, they also do projection, and they do the projection on the wall. But then since we changed their space, we wanted to make sure that they could do projection on this back wall. And so we practiced, and the wood is cedar, it's hammered cedar. And so we went back and forth, and we made sure that it was light enough that you could see when they were projecting during the Mass. This is where, when the tabernacle came, this is where the pastor number 3 put it. And there is no discussion. So this stand that he put over this, how can I get this is gone now. But we still have this hanging sanctuary lamp to come. So I don't really know what's going to happen, because he won't discuss anything with anybody. And so he had a temporary sanctuary lamp put in, which was kind of interesting. So we don't know about that. He also wants to put up, I heard, he wants to put up screens for projection on the reredos wall. So I don't know where that would be, and that would interfere with the sanctuary lamp and the placement of the tabernacle, but I'm not really sure what's going to happen with that. So still to come. This project is never going to get done, ever. So we have a candle coming by the ambo. The sanctuary lamp is to be hung from the ceiling, and the cantor stand is going to become, and it will be on the floor. One of the things really important to this community is music. They sing well. They have all different kinds of choirs. So that's really an important part of their worship. And chairs for the assembly, the new pastor wants the chairs replaced. And we didn't put this, we had this in like phase 3, because we really didn't want to have to negotiate with the Archbishop. But the Archbishop wants kneelers on all the chairs. And so when we talked about getting new chairs with him, we were trying to negotiate some things, and getting new chairs with kneelers is not a problem, but that the front row was not going to have any kneelers. So he was talking about putting pillows under the chairs for the people to be able to kneel. And then what we were negotiating with was one section would have all kneelers, and then we would have the others with chairs. So I do not know. They did choose, no, the last pastor has chosen some chairs, but he hasn't done anything about it. And we really don't know why. But they will get new chairs. There has been no dedication of this space. The furniture came and it was supposed to be stored, and then we were going to work with the Archdiocese for the dedication. And so the furniture came, and pastor number 3 just put it out. And he forbid the chairperson, the business manager, and the person from the finance committee from even questioning anything about a dedication. And so we have no idea. He put some holy water on it, but the whole space has not been dedicated, which is very sad. The people are not really happy about that. So we have no idea if there is ever going to be a dedication. So phase 2, they have no baptismal font. They don't wheel that other one out. I presume that they bring a bowl out when there's time for a baptism. When it is Easter time, they get out one of those pools and they build a little design around the pools, and then it doesn't stay up the whole Easter season. So it's up on the people know that there's supposed to be a baptismal font, but if it ever comes, I'm not really sure. Let me show, it is designed and is immersion font. And it's kind of interesting, when the Archbishop saw the designs for the font, he wanted to make sure that it was big enough for immersion. Now, in the cathedral, they don't have an immersion font. So I thought it was kind of interesting that he wants to make sure that this space will be big enough. So it's in the plans. The 2 additional windows that Guy designed are supposed to have, they're supposed to be expanded. And we were going to have glass over the entrance of the new entrance door to accentuate it. But I don't really know what's going to happen with that. And then we were going to redesign the whole shrine space in the narthex. So everything is in limbo because the committee is basically disbanded. The space, we just got the approval on Friday from the city, and everything has passed inspection and they're done. The architect is going to sign off on Friday, this for coming Friday. They have had a lot of trouble with the city, like when they had it put in an accessible bathroom and it didn't pass inspection, so they had to redo it. That the accessibility ramp in the front from the parking lot was done and it didn't pass inspection, so they had to redo it. So there have been many, many starts and stops on this project. So the people are happy when it makes a really big difference in this space to see. It's more accessible when you see the sanctuary where it is. It's more welcoming, it's more open, to get rid of the plants in the back of the window. It was dark, it wasn't really welcoming. So all in all, I think the space is beautiful. And the people like the furniture. It's different, but it suits them. They chose it. So I'm happy with it. It's, as the secretary said, it's my second home. I have been there for so long and so often. But it's been a very interesting project. What can I say? So I'm open to any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Marilyn. Can you unshare?
Yeah, I am working on that. How do I do this?
Okay.
I don't want to do that. No, I just got out of that.
It's a Zoom thing.
I know, I'm working on it.
Bottom.
I clicked on it, Pam.
Try again.
Okay, stop share. Got it.
There we go. Wonderful. Well, that was quite a master class in how to deal with many different kinds of people. Very interesting. I was curious, you didn't show us any kind of graph, but where did the sanctuary move to?
The center between the two windows.
Okay.
So where do they
Nice.
rollerblade now, Marilyn?
Yeah.
I don't know, and I care. I really don't know. The kids, that the Archbishop will not let them use it as a multi-use space. So they can't do that.
They can't. Well, I was speaking tongue in cheek, but I'd have a
I know that.
question about the stained glass because you mentioned that a figurative work was not really what the artist does, And
Right.
so how would you, and it is what it is. I'm just curious to know how you would, if you had a responsive everybody working together better, how would you deal with that in a best case scenario? The fact that you've got someone who's really, his gift is in a different direction.
I I think that Guy wasn't really he wasn't really free to design it even as he wanted to. I mean, it was too direct, too pointed. I don't know. I mean, it's hard. I mean, that's not his style. I mean, they chose him for his style. So I have often thought about that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
It seems like it's not really fair to the artist to make you try to do something that is totally different from what you do. And I don't know, it's not going to be satisfying to the artist. It's, in that case, I almost think it would be better to find someone else.
In another project, I did do that. I changed to another artist.
Ken has a question.
What about, and just theoretically, would something like a collaboration between two artists work, where the original artist could still guide the project and still benefit from the project financially, but then have an artist who was more comfortable with the figurative work sort of collaborate with the artist to do the field window? You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
do.
speculating if that might be a solution in a case like this. This is a very odd turn of events, obviously, but very difficult turn of events.
And the thing is, it was a priority to get it done in the beginning. I mean, because these people had not seen anything for their money, and they did not believe that this project was ever going to happen because of all the starts and the stops. And so it wasn't, and they don't have a lot of money. And let me just tell you one thing, they raise money in a very different manner. It is not like you get a company to come in and do fundraising, or you don't have a capital campaign group in your parish. The business manager in this culture taps people on the shoulder and asks for money. So all of the furniture is paid for, and it was paid for before it was built. And we have Jeff and Linda Condier on this webinar. I'm very pleased that they're here, that they made the furniture. But so they just have an odd way of it works for them, you know. But it just baffles me. The whole thing about the windows just baffles me. So I don't know. I would do it differently if I were to do it again.
Well, the furniture is stunning.
Mhm.
And I think that and I don't know who in the design of the reredos put in those arches, those sort of, I just think it's it's just beautiful.
The architect did that. That was his idea.
The second architect or the first architect?
Second architect. Which door?
Ken,
I have another question, Sister Marilyn. The, you know, the long life of this project, and it's still apparently not completely finished, and all the stops and starts and changes and deaths and new pastors, those are all the kinds of things that can absolutely kill a project. And so there must be something in the culture that they decided to hang in there. But I'm also wondering about whether there was ever talk about um, processing any of that, or whether you did any processing of these changes and these losses and these things being imposed from the outside, seemingly. And was there any grief work or expressions of grief or anything? I mean, did that become part of the process at all?
I think the fact that there was only one consultant on the project, whether it be me or anybody else, was a stabilizing thing.
Hmm.
And I think that we did talk about it, not in a formal way, about the Archbishop, and I tried to process things with what I try to do in any project is to educate the people along the way and have them be sure about what they want. Like they, you know, we all stood up for no more platforms, no more this, or this is what we want. And so they knew what they wanted and they understood. I had to talk to them about when the Archbishop says this, you have to make your voice heard. We talked about some of that kind of thing. You know, what do you want? And as I said, you know, it became, because the second pastor and I worked together before, he didn't come to any meetings, by the way. Then I had to go and tell him what was happening. But because he trusted me, then they would talk to me about what their concerns were. I wasn't the outsider anymore because the pastor, the authority, had passed the authority to me. And that's really important in the culture. Who's making the decisions and how do you do it? So yes, we did talk about things of what you have and what you couldn't have, but they wanted it so much. You know, the people that hung in there. I mean, we had 2 committee members die. You know, so I mean, 13 years is a long time to keep a committee together. So we would joke about things, you know, like when this is done, we're going to go have a drink, you know, just to talk about the hard things, because there have been so many hard things, and they would complain to me about the pastor, you know, not being part of the decision making, that hurt them. They didn't like that. So
Just a quick closing reflection on that question. Wonderful answer. Thank you. I remember Gil Ostick saying at CTU almost 25 years ago at the ILC, he said, one of the roles of the consultant is to be a calming presence in the parish. And it looks to me like that's what you've been on this project. You've been that, like you said, the continuity and the calming presence. So good job.
thank you. Thank you.
Is next.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry I don't have my camera on. I'm having an incredibly bad hair day right now. Been a little busy in the house already. I love the fact that you found a way through Ricky Manalo to figure out a way to get the information out of the people, because I've worked with some Filipino groups, and it can be very difficult when you're not really sure. And I'm beginning to realize, as I've been working with different cultural groups, you have to find somebody, and sometimes it's even like a psychologist within that community group, who can give you a hint of how to actually get the information, especially, I mean, they'll see you as a sister, a religious sister, and that means that even that relationship is a little different than it might be for a layperson, but I'm finding that to be real helpful now. So thank you for kind of reminding us how to navigate that, because that really is a cultural question where you have to figure out how to get their true feelings out. So thank you for that, Marilyn.
You're welcome. It was really hard. I mean, I would go back and forth to Ricky, please help me. You know,
Smart. Very smart.
really,
Thank you.
yeah. Because otherwise you get no answers, whatever Father wants. Well, that doesn't work.
Well, the parish that I was working with, the Filipinos told me there's a way of understanding intonation when yes, Father means yes, and when yes, Father means expletive you. So
Exactly
it's a good
right.
way to know. Yes.
You know, like, will you be at the meeting? Maybe. That means absolutely not, you know, so.
Ben.
Well, yes, thank you, Marilyn, for sharing one of those projects that, you know, doesn't go in necessarily the front and center most often, and yet sometimes has the most important lessons. That was very reminds me of a number of different issues that I deal with quite regularly. And to follow up on Ken's suggestion about, you know, what is the grieving or mourning, I can tell you of two projects that I'm thinking of. One of them was from a Catholic project. The other was a Lutheran project, states away from each other. Both of them had a similar anger that was simmering over a past failure of, in this case, one was supposed to have built a new sanctuary that never got built. And another one was a major renovation project that was built, but nobody had any input. A building committee member took over and just did it. And we started these conversations, and the first one was a failure from 40 years earlier. And it was in the DNA of the congregation, and it had held them from being able to have enough confidence to go forward because they had raised money for an event that never took place. The second one was generational as well, in that the children of the building committee members were there and were very defensive about the work their father had done. And that also was a dynamic. So I don't know if it's something that maybe any of you who are involved in seminaries can pass on to some of these clergy, that, you know, it may be that you think you are helping to bring along this congregation, but these type of thwarting of the input, particularly if something has already been joined and people have put their money behind it, you know, this is like pulling the rug out of folks' safety net or security blanket, and the ripple effect. I guess what I want to pass on, you may have left something for a consultant 40 years from now to still have to sort out.
Well, you know, George and I had a conversation at the Southwest with two bishops actually on that very issue. And I said something about seminaries need to work with priests about, building, and this bishop got really defensive. Well, I was the head of the seminary, and I think that they knew it. And then later on, he told George that, well, maybe not, maybe I need to do something. So, I didn't mean to insult the bishop, but seminaries really need, and the other thing is that the cultural thing, that this pastor number 3 came in. I'm the pastor. I make the decisions. Doesn't want input. So it's not a good thing.
Culture is so important. Peggy,
Can I just ask a quick question? It's just, can you repeat the name of the people who designed the furniture? Because I didn't get that, and I just think it's.
they're here, Peggy.
They're here.
Well, I
Jeff
don't.
and
Yeah,
Linda,
I
turn
don't
your
see them on
camera
my
on.
screen. I don't know who they are because I don't
Okay.
know.
Jeff
I'm
and Linda
wondering,
Condon.
Jeff and Linda, if you would like to show yourselves and maybe talk to us a little bit about the process of the furniture making and how people can get in touch with you.
Jeff and Linda.
What's their last name?
Condy.
They're also,
Condy.
they're muted.
P-O-N?
Condy.
Okay, thank you.
They're muted.
Right. I just clicked the ask.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
we
we're
figured that out.
We're not that computer savvy, and this is on our new Mac, the first time doing a Zoom. So
Ew.
do I click share screen?
Now click
If you go down to the bottom left of your screen, you should see a sign, an icon that says start video.
Yeah.
Oh, not share screen. Start video. Got you. Then allow. Oh,
they
there
are.
we go.
There we
in
are.
that- in
This is
trouble.
the first time you've seen the whole church. What do you think?
Yeah. No, well, when I saw the tabernacle under the cross, my eyebrows
Yeah.
went up like, oh,
Not where it's supposed to be.
no. I'm just
Yeah,
like, what are they going to do with the lamp?
We've been in
Exactly.
touch. We've been in touch on the final pieces, of course, the sanctuary lamp, the canner stand, and that third candle that we somehow
Forgot.
at senior citizen mind left out. When the chair was deleted, I think my mind deleted a candle. One of the deacon's chairs was deleted, but that's my poor excuse. But anyway, for a day and a half, I've been waiting Schneider trucking freight quote from our liaison and customer service trucking girl in Wisconsin to get some increased insurance than they regularly have on crate. So it's been in the crate for 24 hours, those pieces, and I'm trying to get it out the door on the truck. And as of lunchtime today, not yet, but so we're working on it as the 13 years worked on it.
Well, my smart remark about this, when I saw the tabernacle where it was, I said, so we're going to hang the sanctuary lamp in front of Jesus's face, I mean, it's just not where it's supposed to be, but
Well, maybe things will change. One can always.
hopefully.
So Linda, I'll have to say, is the true artist.
We both do both.
Well, development of the design, but she is the true artist.
Can you say something about how you design the burls into the pieces? Because I've never seen burls used that way. Usually people
Yeah.
shape the wood around the existing burl, but it seems like you sliced it.
Yeah, all that big leaf maple burl we got from Oregon, and it was about a 34-inch by 34-inch, 8-inch thick hunk of wood. So we let in this case, in these pieces, the design direction, we tried to have the burl live edge tell us how to use it, how to design. And the best example of that perhaps is the tabernacle door. In all that burl wood, there was only one corner that had a 90-degree live edge, and that allowed us to create the 4 book-matched edges that hold the gold plate and create that cross. So the wood did it for us. We didn't try to impose our line weight or our drawings on it.
So the use of the burl was just supposed to kind of
Be highlight, not the overall.
and to impart creation, mystery. You know, we can't control it. It's God's control. You know, his mystery and power just being imparted to us, coming down, and we learn, experience, don't understand it all, but we recognize it.
She's using her hands when she talks, but they're exiting the camera.
Well, I've got your website here and it's got a burl on it. So I'm just wondering whether you use burls and whether that tabernacle and the other furniture is on your website.
Not yet.
This furniture is not yet. That the burl imagery on our website was really a once in a lifetime find, and this is such an interesting story. I have to tell it quickly. So, Linda and I are at her parents' church in Long Island, New York, and we were told by a parishioner who restores antiques that there was this hunk of burl laying in a hollow at the public golf course in Smithtown, Long Island. And he knew what a burl wood was. You know, it's essentially a big tumor on a tree. And this cherry burl was so large that it completely surrounded the tree. In other words, you have the diameter of the tree, and then the tumor was a whole nother bowl circle on top of the length of the butt log of the tree. And so I went over and chased down the greenskeeper and asked him if we could clean that up for him. The tree was gone. It was all cut and hauled away, but the burl was so large, it was still laid there down in this hollow off a tee. And so about 2 weeks went by and I came back to visit Linda's family with my pickup truck and got it in the truck. And we were going to say, this is so valuable, this burl, that we're not going to use it in our work. We have a 140-year-old Pennsylvania stone farmhouse. We're going to cut this burl into veneer and sell it and get an addition on our house. So I was in touch with a North Carolina company and I had a hotel lined up and they're going to soak it overnight. And when you cut veneer, they shear it with a knife round. And so there's no waste. And I said, well, how do I even know this is burl? This burl is veneer quality. So I went out with a chainsaw and hacked some of it off. And sure enough, there was voids and bark pockets and things that you can't really do with veneer because if veneer has holes in it, then it has no integrity and the glue comes through and makes a big mess and it's just no good. So it got taken to a very large band mill and cut into slabs, all different thicknesses. In my mind, that's how we work with liturgical church furniture, is all kind of thicknesses. So God had a plan for this burl. It wasn't my plan. That's how I look at it. So the burl is from the east to the west coast. It's in California, right, sister? It's in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah. Right.
And it's from the west coast to the east coast, pieces of this a big cherry burl. And
In
so
different
that's the
churches.
that's the story on that one.
I want to tell you that I was told that the Archbishop would never approve the use of burl.
Oh, really? Why?
Yeah, I don't know. They didn't know it. See, they just make up things that they think he's not going to approve.
There you
And
go.
he never said a word, you know? So,
Well, we need to come to a conclusion today, but thank you very much.